What's up YouTube? It's your boy Rudy, here to bring you guys another video. If you guys are already subscribers, thank you so much for being here, supporting me. If you aren't a subscriber yet, please consider smacking that subscribe button, give me the thumbs up, hit some comments down below, and become part of the crew. Now, I'm really excited because today's video that we're about to get into, I'm introducing y'all and taking an in-depth look at my new bike. I put out a little videos here and there, but this is really taking a good look at my Norco 2022 Range Model C3. We're gonna get into it right now. All right, so what I wanna do now is I wanna go over the components and the pros and the cons of those components, and I'll probably just go over a little bit of why I what the component was, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, maybe why I switched the components to what I have, because a lot has changed on this bike since I got it. Purposefully, I knew that I was going to be doing this, and I've had a blast doing it. So let's get into it. Let's start with the dropper lever and the seat. Gonna kind of work our way around the bike. So the dropper post was a Trans X 170 millimeter, which was really good that they put that big of a dropper post on a size medium bike. Trans X, same thing with the lever, the Trans X lever. There's nothing wrong with it. Everything worked really good. They had the rad system on it, so you could actually change 10 millimeter increments lower. So you can go from a 170, you can go from a 170 down to a 150 by just simply unscrewing the collar, putting it in this position, screwing the collar back on, lowering the seat, and whenever you popped it back up, it would be in whatever position you were. So it started off as a 170, you can go down to a 150. The lever worked really well. The ergonomics of it was good. It was a smooth kind of round ball feeling, kind of like a shifter lever. It worked fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but I already had purchased this one up, and I already had the dropper lever and I already had the seat. So what's on here now, and I didn't see the seat. So the seat was a WTV Volt saddle, which is basically a little bit wider in the back, and then the nose is a little bit shorter. I got along with the seat really good, but I had already purchased this WTV titanium Silverado. It's exactly what's on my Bronson, and because I got along with the seat so well, when a friend of mine was putting his seat that he had gotten on his high build Mega Tower, he sold it to me for like 40 bucks. So it was like a no-brainer. You know, it's like like $140 seat. That's what's on here now. I get along with it really well. The dropper post is the one up. It's a 210 mil. And I had already had this dropper post and the lever, so that's why I really wanted to put on there. It's probably, at this point, it's probably 7 or 8 months old. Works flawlessly. Everybody knows that 1UP's one of the better brands when it comes to seat post. The seat, the insert is pretty short, and as you can see, even with the 210, I still have about 20-ish millimeters dropper sticking out of the top, so it's not slammed, but it's in a really good position. Even with the Trans X dropper that I had on there, it had about 30 millimeters still sticking out of the top whenever the seat was all the way down, which really it's not that big of a deal, but I already had this, so it just made sense to use it, you know. Moving on, so let's go from the seat and the dropper and all that stuff to the handlebars and stem. What came with the bike is the E13 handlebar. It was a 20 mil rise. That's Moose. Let's go get him real quick. He's so upset because nobody's in the house. Come on. You come here. You gotta say hi now. Say hi, Moose. Lay the camera up there. Say hi, Moose. You don't know what I'm talking about? You just want to come out and lay down in the sun? Okay. Good to you. Okay, so what was on here originally was the E13 stem, 40 millimeter with a 35 mil clamp, 800 millimeter bar that was also E13, 20 mil rise, 35 millimeter clamp. And I rode that bike I rode that handlebar. First of all, I rode the bike. If I didn't already mention, I rode the bike completely stock for like the first month. And if you're new to the channel, or if you don't know already, I ride bike like 4 or 5 days a week. I have a membership at Spider Mountain, and I'm there at least once a week. They're open Monday. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. They're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Closed throughout the rest of the week. Anyways, so I put a lot of miles on this bike before I started switching stuff out. But the E13s, I did a little bit of experimenting with Norco's ride-a-line system. They had mentioned that to try, suggested bar width was 760. So I cut those bars to 760, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I stuck with that. So the bars that are on here now and stem are both P&W. So it's the P&W Range, stem, and handlebars. But these handlebars, P&W only makes in a 30 mil rise. I believe only a 30 mil rise. They're the 31.6 version clamp. That's why I have the stem to go with it. It's also a 40 mil as well. And it fit the bike really good. And I really like it a lot. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the E13 stem, and I'm going to put a 1-Up Components bar on there because I really like that bar. That's what was on my Bronson. It's either that or maybe a Chrome Mag. I don't know. I don't really have to spend the money because I have a really nice 1-Up bar that I can put on here. Anyways, kind of getting off subject. That was what was on here. I got along with it well, but I wanted to try a 30 mil rise, and that's a little bit better. Also, with the ride-a-line, it's mentioned that I should have about a 5 mil stem height. So just one 5 mil spacer on the bottom of the stem. I have it slammed. I don't have any spacers on there. And with the 30 mil rise bars, it feels a lot closer to what it was with the 20 mil rise bars. So I like it. I like it a lot. And I'll probably stick to something really close and similar to that. Moving on, because I can just babble on about stuff. Sorry. Group set. So what came with the bike was the Dior. It was like a Dior SLX combo, right? So it had a Dior cassette 10 to 51 tooth, Dior cranks with a 32 tooth chain ring, but it had an SLX shifter and derailleur. Now, everything about that system worked really well. It shifted great. It was obviously on the heavy side because it's, the lower end stuff, but it worked really well except for the crank arms. The crank arms. So I kind of knew they had a problem. I think that they have a problem. Actually, I know that they have a problem. So the crank arms, they're basically like your stem, like they're just kind of pinched on. There were 2 bolts. And what happens is those bolts back out a little bit, and you're going down the trail or whatever, and you don't know it, and luckily I was going up ascend whenever this happened, and I was just pedaling up, and then that freaking arm just came right off. And looking back, like I knew that they had a problem, but it was only like my 4th ride on this bike, and that happened to me. So it kind of stripped out some of the splines that the cranks sit on. Not bad, but some of them, yeah. But I was able to get it back on those splines, push it back on there, finish out the ride. I did like 2 more rides, maybe 3 more rides, but I was so worried. I kept on looking down at the bottom bracket to see if there was a gap, meaning that the bolts had gotten loose and it's starting to work its way away from the crank again. And then I would, I'd pull my field tool out and snug everything back down and, hit a few more runs. But it had gotten so bad that I was so worried that it was going to come off when I was doing like a downhill run or something, that I was just constantly looking at my bottom bracket. And you don't need that. That's like the last thing you need, right? So anyways, out of a necessity, I didn't have everything that I wanted to switch over to SRAM because that's what I was initially going to do, or that's what I did do. That's where I'm at now. So I had already had a bottom bracket, but I didn't have the crankset that I wanted because I had an X01, but it was 175 millimeter cranks, and this is a 170. Yeah, it makes that big of a difference. I'm not putting a 175 on this. Is bottom bracket's low. The bike sits pretty deep into its travel. Whenever I mean, it's pretty plush bike. So, anyways, ended up finding a used pair of NX cranks from a guy locally. Used, really good shape, basically brand new. He sold them to me for 80 bucks. I took it to the local bike shop, had them put in the press fit dub and crankset, and basically the rest is history. So what I have on here now is a mix of NX and X01. NX cranks, NX rear cassette 10 to 50 tooth, and X01 shifter and derailleur, which I love. I don't think I'll use anything less than X01. People tell me there's not that much difference from GX to NX, but I don't know. I haven't ever ran, but I like X01. Moving on. Again, I'll just keep babbling about this stuff. Brakes. Shimano brakes. They're the MT520 4-piston, which is basically Shimano's like bottom of the line 4-piston brakes. And initially, like, they work really well. They come with 203 rotors. They're metallic pads. The initial bite's like bam, like, I mean, and I think that's a characteristic of Shimano anyways. Like, it's really good. Like, the initial bite's like really good. The modulation's not quite as good, but like the bite's there. You feel that bite point. It's snappy. I get along with it pretty good. And really, I mean, that's the brakes that are on here currently now, even now. So with the 203 rotors, and even doing downhill stuff, like, they work really good. But here recently, I had a lot of people out at Spider Mountain, and we were doing some potty laps, and I got stuck behind some of the slower guys, which is fine. Like, everybody, go at your own pace. But obviously, I wanted to make sure I had that distance, so I was brake checking, a lot more stuff and making sure I wasn't right on the guy in front of me's wheel. And I started getting brake fade. Like, they started heating up and getting brake fade. I'm like, whoa! So there's the weak point on them. And our blacks, they're really on each one of the blacks, the double black and the single black that we have at Spider Mountain. There's really only like 2 spots that I'm not that great at, that are really steep, that is going to require like good brake power. So I can't imagine whenever I get to another bike park that has, and that runs only like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes long. Like, it's not a very long downhill. So I can only imagine at an actual bike park where we're doing, 30-minute descends, or, that these brakes are going to hold up. So I'm moving on from them. Currently, the rotors that are on here are the SLX rotors instead of the Dior RT63s, because I switched the rims and I went to 6-bolt, and the rims that were on here before were center locks. But I'm moving on to Magura MT5 HCs, 220 front rotor, 203 rear rotor. So I'm gonna have all the braking power in the world that I'm going to need for this bike, and the calipers are black and red, so it should match the scheme of the bike pretty sick. So, okay, so moving on to the rims. The rims that initially came with this bike were the Stans Flow D 29 internal mil rim width. They were laced up on Shimano, I don't know, bottom of the line hubs. The engagement was terrible, as you can expect with a base model build, but they worked. The thing that I did like about them is there are those ones that, like, once they got up to speed, like, the hub noise was completely gone, like basically silent, like there wasn't hardly any noise. I did like that about them. But what I ended up putting on these, what's on here now, because I wanted a little bit stiffer wheel, a little bit more strength to the wheel. These wheels are e-bike rated, so I figured with the size of this bike and the size of my body, like, that would be in my best interest. So I went with the WTB HTZ rims, and I have them laced up with DT Swiss 240 hubs with the 54 star ratchet. Now DT Swiss is what I have on 2 of my other bikes. I trust them, they work, they've been like bomb proof, and the 54 tooth ratchet, like, I mean it'd be nice to have maybe more engagement. I don't know. I've never ridden a bike with anything more than a 54 tooth, but I know what it's like to ride one with 18. I know what it's like to ride one with 36, and I tell you what, even from 36 to 54 is a big improvement. So anyways, I get along with them really well. I like them. They're a little bit on the lighter side, which this bike could use all the help it can get when it comes to being on the lighter side of things. Moving on, or else I'll just keep babbling about that. The tires. The tires that are wrapped on those rims are the same that came with the bike. It's the Assegai in the front, double down casing. Absolutely love this front tire. It's 2.5. I really like the Minion DHF. I'll run that DHF front and rear like all day long, but this Maxxis, try a Maxxis tire if you like that and you like good cornering, good predictable grip. Like, this tire is badass. I like it a lot. On the rear is the Maxxis Dissector 2.4 double down casing. Again, this tire comes with across all 3 models of this build. It's a fast rolling tire, and I don't know if this is the case for everybody, but the center knobs for braking, like, gone. I mean, just gone so fast. It's a predictable rear tire. The corner knobs on it I really get along with. They really hook up good, but the braking knobs are like gone. But it is also probably, what am I, like 2 months into like really hammering this bike, like park days, not back-to-back park days, but week after week, like park days. I ride a lot. Whenever I ride this bike, I'm taking it out to enduro trails. Like, I'm smashing like big stuff. So I don't know. The jury's still out on what I think about this back tire. I just haven't had a back tire where the braking knobs off as fast as this Dissector. So what's on here now, not only are the same tires, but I did end up going with the cushcore to help protect the rim, drop the tire pressure, and try not to get any snake bites, because I did, before I put the cushcore in there, got a snake bite on this back wheel. I was able to get a good patch, sealed up nicely, put the cushcore on there, and it's been holding ever since. So looks like I'm going to be able to get full life out of this back tire, which is getting pretty close to being need replaced. Yeah, cushcore. I mean, what more can you say? I actually watched a couple of videos and it went really well. Like, the first one took me 15 minutes and the second one took me 10 minutes. So, but I'm not looking forward to switching the tires because it is a snug fit. Anyways, again, I can babble on about that stuff, but we're going to move on to the fork. This fork, the Zeb, I have it on my Bronson. Absolutely love it. I've ridden a Bronson with a 38. And it was okay. It was actually really stiff, and it had the grip too. And man, it takes a while, I think, to find your sweet spot with that grip too. As to where with like the Zeb or any RockShox fork, I just find the sweet spot so much faster. But what originally came with the bike was the Zeb R Charger, which means it has a rebound, but it has no low speed or high speed compression. So the thing that I liked is that you got all the stiffness and all the plush out of it, but without having any high speed or low speed rebound. The fork sits so deep into its mid travel, it made it really hard and inefficient when pedaling this bike. Rather you're up to speed or just normal climbing stuff speed, like it was tough. You just really feel the inefficient kind of bobbing of it. Now, since that, I've put the upgraded Charger damper in it, so now it's basically a Zeb Ultimate is what it is. It's got the low speed rebound, high speed and low speed compressions on top, and boy, what a difference that makes. Like, now it's got all the support, so instead of sitting on mid stroke whenever you're pedaling, It's sitting way higher in the travel, and it's much more supported and responsive when putting pedaling in. And pop, you talk about pop, boy, this, man, the bike definitely felt more DH orientated. Like, it was really soft and really plush, and it still is really soft and really plush, talking about the fork. But now, whenever you push into like the face of a jump, like, man, this thing, like, it really pops now. So it was obviously, it was missing that, like, big time. So if you get this bike and it's got the R charger on it, or if you have an R charger, whenever you get the upgrade to the Ultimate, I mean, it's night and day difference. Like, you're going to be absolutely amazed, and I was, and I'm totally happy with it. And I'm glad I have the Zeb and not the 38. Moving on, the shock, the Fox DH X2. It came with a 450 pound spring, and I needed a 6. So whenever I first got this bike, I really couldn't ride it. I rode it around here, and I bent in the brakes, and then I waited 3 more days for my spring decks to come in. So that's the only thing that's changed about this rear shock, is the coil. I put the spring decks on it, and I have it set at 600. I have a range from 540 to 610. So if you don't know what the spring deck is, it's basically a dial on the bottom of the spring, so you can adjust your tension on the coil. And I thought, because I plan on losing weight, I don't plan on being this big for very much longer, because I don't like it. I've basically gained 30 pounds in a year since I've been here in San Antonio. But so I can dial it back, or I can even dial it up a little bit still yet. And it's been money. Like, it's been great, and I think it was the right pick for me as far as that goes. The only other thing that I would really like to do is maybe eventually try like a progressive fork. This bike's still linear, but I tell you what, man, with the fork, it still pops really good. And whenever this bike is up to speed, like, it actually is way more nimble than I ever thought it could be or would be. Even before I got the shock upgrade, like, it was still a pretty nimble bike. So moving on here, that's pretty much it, what I wanted to visit with and talk to you guys about the components and where the bike's at and where it's going to be. Let's move on to things like the pros and cons. This is kind of getting towards the end of the video, and what I'm doing here is I'm going to do like likes, loves and dislikes, likes and dislikes, quirky things that I found about the bike. And I'm going to try not to be biased, because I really do like this bike, but I do want to give you guys a fair assessment in case you're looking at purchasing this same bike, and some things to maybe look out for, right? So I'm just going to start with the good things. I love the way that out of the box this bike felt so plush, and I've never ridden a downhill bike outside of the parking lot. And looking at other reviews through the big box brand YouTubers like Pink Bike and things like that, like, they say that it feels like really close to downhill bike, and it is soft and it is plush. And now with the fork having some more adjustments, like, I just got this bike dialed in where it feels good in all situations. It's a 29er front and rear, and with that ride-a-line picking the bike that they suggested fits for me, I'm 5'8". They said I'm right in the medium. I'm glad I did that, because I wanted a 29er bike, because I had been riding a couple of trail bikes that were 29er, and I just kind of fell in love with them. The one thing that I was worried about getting a bigger bike with longer travel was buzzing my butt, and I can say up to this point that I have no butt buzzers at this point. And I think that's just because of how they designed the bike, and that the bike fits me. And I haven't even really felt that I was close to the back wheel. Another thing that I love about this bike is that handling, like, getting on this bike, like, the rear end, yes, felt familiar, but when you get into the trail and you're doing berms and things like that, everything else just feels like any other bike that I've hopped on. And yeah, I've ridden quite a few bikes, and I've ridden quite a few bikes for long periods of time, you know, because that's what I like to do. And besides the way that that rear axle path takes, the bike feels very familiar, and it was really easy and to get along with the bike. Being a big bike like this and having so much travel front and rear, like it inspires so much confidence and gives me yeah, you know, like it just gives me this confidence that I have to go down these. The thing that I struggle with, like the jumps aren't a problem, the speed isn't a problem. The problem for me is the steep. Whenever it comes to steep sections, I don't know if I just haven't done them enough or what, but steep, big, rocky sections is kind of what I have a problem with. Picking the lines or looking out far enough ahead of me, trying to skim over the tops of the square edges and not, like, that's what I have a problem with. But this bike is helping me conquer those fears. So I love that about this bike. I love that the bike, every bike and every model already comes with a bash guard and a chain guide. And yeah, I know with the high pivot design, you guys, with the high pivot design, it's already got one there, but it does have one kind of here on the bottom that locks it in place. But and it comes with a bash guard, like they already put that on there for you. Absolutely love the depth grips. I'm a huge fan. I really like this ridge line here because it doesn't make my thumbs feel sore like all of the other grips that I have tried. Although I've worn out the top of the patch on both of these from where the outsides of my palms rest for things, but big fan of those. All right, so I'm sure there's probably a few more things I could probably pick out, but those are the things that I really love the most. So let's talk about some of the dislikes. Starting with the frame protection. So they put some really nice padding, you know, like this little frame guard or whatever, shuttle guard, I should say, on the bottom of the bike, which works, does its job, and it's pretty beefy and barley. But the the sticker, you know, it's freaking hot here in Texas, and when you sit on the back of the truck, just from moving about, that stickers come loose. And so I mean that's a good spot for it. And since then I've used this stuff called alien tape and put it on there, and it seems to be holding up better. But they also put one of those same on the bottom. I kind of want to show you guys in its current condition because let's see here. So there's the tailgate protector, and then there's this other rubber one right here. Man, if they would have went out, you know, a whole other inch or wrapped up and came up a little bit, I don't know if it was because of the aesthetics of the bike or what, but you guys can see there's a chip there, and a chip there, and I've already put some AMS tape over it to try to help. And I had one here already thinking that would be the soft spot, but man, I got some chips on there already. I just wish that frame protector would have went out a little bit wider. So, and you can see I got frame protector here and here, and there's frame protector that I used from AMS that I put all over the bike thinking that would be good, but it wasn't. I still got chips. And so I think that they could have did a little bit better job. I think they could have done a little bit better job with their frame protector, especially on that bottom area. Moving on, oh, the chainstay protector. Like, it works good, and it obviously deadens the noise, but there's a spot on the back where you know, when you're in the last two teeth, either the 10 or the 11 tooth gear, like, I got a bunch of chips back there from the chain slap or whatever, that if they would have just made that chainstay protector a little bit wider, like, I wouldn't have got those chips. So luckily I got some AMS and frame protector, and I put that there to try to help that out. And then I got chips on the bottom where they had like this little rubber that, I mean, it's gone and beat up already. They could have put a little bit better material there. I got chips there that I didn't catch right away, and I got some AMS guard over that, but I got chips there too, so I think they could have did a better job, Norco. Cable routing for the dropper. So it comes right up past the very back of the coil, and it's got this little screw on the outside and a plate that basically pinch it in place. You gotta tighten it down. Well, I'll wait for this plane to go by. So they got this screw and this plate that hold that cable in place and pinches it against the frame. That works, but see, the thing is that I did get this spring decks, and yeah, I probably wouldn't have had this problem had I got the spring decks. So it kind of bulletin here for you guys. If you're getting the spring decks, that screw, whenever you snug it down in there at spec, which is 2 Newton meters, the screw sticks out, you know, like a freaking 1/8 of an inch, or maybe even shorter, but it's enough to where it catches the spring deck's collar and will actually move it when you're going down the trail. So what I had to do is get that pulled out of there and shave that screw down, cut that screw down to where it sits flush with the plate that holds the casing, the housing, the cable housing in place, and that worked. It's fine. But if you have a problem or you have to move that cable or you want to switch that cable out, like that cable, Rudy, just in a kind of a crappy spot. I don't like it. I figured I'd note it. It's something small. Not everybody's probably going to have that problem, but I figured it's important to note. What else do I got written down here? Oh, the dropouts. So the rear dropouts where the rear axle bolt goes through, they're aluminum and they're held into the carbon part of the frame. Norco, whoever built this bike, didn't put Loctite on there. So they came loose like the 3rd time riding this bike. I was like, man, the rear feels different, of course. So if you're anything of a bike guy and you feel that, you grab your back wheel and you wiggle it. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? So made it down the trail, took that back wheel off, and yeah, there's 2 bolts on each side of those dropouts. They were loose. So I snugged them back up, and then whenever I went home, I took them all the way out, and yeah, there was no Loctite on them. So I went back to Norco's website to get the specs, make sure, because you're tightening things into carbon frames, so you really want to make sure that you have the right torque spec. And so I pulled them out, put the Loctite back on them, and I haven't had a problem since. But I don't know. I'm just trying to look for things that I don't like about it, or things that I run into, or quirky things. The big thing is the weight of this bike. The bike with the components out of the box, complete put together, model C3 build, was 40 pounds out of the box. And I put some other components on there that have kind of helped lighten that thing up, and then I put cushcore in it, and I was just under 39 pounds, and I put the cushcore back in there, and I'm like 39.9 pounds of weight. So I'm still at a 40-pound bike, but in the future, like I said, I think I'm gonna put the 1-up carbon bars back on there. I'm still looking for a 170 X01 crank, and I think I'm gonna get that E13 Helix. Like, it's lighter than, it's like the lightest cassette out there. That's a 12-speed cassette. That'll help. Hopefully that'll knock a whole pound and a half off between those other 3 components. Since this is my enduro race bike, I don't think I'm going to go carbon wheels, but you never know. Quirky things, yeah, the chain slap, I kind of mentioned that a little bit. Right back here, and then underneath the cable routing, I kind of touched on that, and the pinch bolts and the axles. Other than that, like, the bike has been great. It's been amazing. I absolutely love this bike. I feel like I picked the right bike out for what I wanted to do. It's not a trail bike. I have ridden it on the trails. I do like riding it on the trails, but you definitely feel the weight penalty whenever you're just doing trail riding. If you're taking it to the bike park or you're using it like I am for enduro racing, which means you're basically running down enduro or downhill park lines, that's where you're going to get the most benefit out of this bike, because although at 40 pounds is heavy, whenever this thing's on the trail and at speed, you can't tell the weight. I cannot tell the weight difference or the weight penalty that this bike has as compared to my Bronson. That's 32.4 pounds with inserts in it, and that with inserts, with the Zeb and a Cascade component link, and that bike is a beast of a bike. But this bike is definitely more geared towards downhill enduro race, and that's why I got it, and I love this bike. So I hope you guys got something out of this, and if you did, you'll hit that subscribe button, smack the like, give me the thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. I love to talk bike stuff. I'm really thinking that I'm going to start like a podcast where it's just me talking about bike stuff, bike parts, bike gear in general, just because I feel like I want to do something more, and maybe somebody would like to listen to me. Anyways, like, subscribe, share. Peace out, YouTube. Go ride your bike.